Leram, absent. New member Steve Kostecki.
Here.
Jerry Hawk.
Yes.
Sarah Stevenson.
Here.
David Blair, absent. And Nick Lucina.
Here.
Roll call
Excellent. We have a quorum, so you have in front of you the proposed agenda for today, and I apologize again. I apologize in my email. I will always try to get this out to you a week ahead of time. This week I screwed up mainly because I got family visiting, and I've got all kinds of excuses. But bottom line is, if you ever see something on the agenda that you don't understand, that you have a question about, that you want added to, do not hesitate to call me, text me, email me, let me know. So at this time, I'd like to have a motion to approve the agenda.
I just have one.
Yes,
Sorry.
absolutely.
It says replace one maple species, but I thought we voted to replace both of the maple species.
Okay,
did.
Correct.
okay. So that's my fault. So we can change that to 2, change 1 to TWO. Okay, thank you, Sarah.
Yep.
Are there any other changes or corrections? Hearing none, do we have a motion to accept the agenda?
I will make a motion to accept the agenda as modified.
Thank you, Jerry. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Sarah. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Outstanding. Okay, at this time, we have an opportunity for citizen and public comment. I don't see any citizens out here other than, hi, Tyler, how you doing? Good to see you, and so we'll pass on that. Next thing is our minutes from our meeting last month on May 11th. That's in front of you, and this was sent out by Katie also earlier, so please take advantage of that to look it over. And if you do see anything that's a problem, please let Katie know ahead of time. So, but are there any additions or corrections to the minutes from our May 11 meeting? Hearing none, we need a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll move to accept the minutes.
Thank you, Nick. Second?
I will second it.
Thank you, Jerry. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of approving the minutes from the May 11th meeting, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, that motion carries. Thank you very much. Okay, under unfinished business, I wasn't sure where to put, the main stuff that we're talking about today, so I just put it all under new business. I probably should have kept the changing the tree species selection under unfinished or old business, but that's just my fault. So let's move right down to that. I guess the question is, Jeff, have we had contractor feedback on our species that we looked at?
So we've had 2 contractors that have planted trees for us in the past 6 years, 7 years. Katie reached out to one, has not heard back from them. I met with the other one, and they said that they would be looking into that, but have not responded to date.
So part of the challenge was we were really being held up by the contractors, what's available. We've got 6 species that we selected, and we were waiting to hear back from them. And we're going to replace 2 of the maple species that are currently on our Manistee Plant a Tree web page on the Manistee website, city website. So we've got to get that done. Mm-hmm. Would it be okay with the commission, with members of the commission, if once Jeff or Katie, if they get feedback from the contractors, if they feed back to us that these are the ones that are available, could we make a selection via email on that? Is everybody comfortable with that? I just really want to come into this as quickly as we can. We need to change what we're doing on the webpage, in my opinion, as soon as possible. But I'm certainly open to discussion, folks. So I guess what the best thing to do would be to make a motion to finalize our change to our replacement of the 2 maple species once we hear from the contractors, and do that via email. So I can't make it, as a chair, I can't make a motion, so somebody would make that motion, and then we can discuss.
I'll make a motion that once we hear back from the contractors, we can approve the selections via email.
Okay, thank you.
Second that.
Nick seconds, thank you. Okay,
Yeah,
now we'll
my
open the
suggestion,
discussion.
my suggestion would be that when we hear back from the contractor, I'm confident they're going to say, these two are readily available, these ones are in small quantity, that kind of thing. And then I can forward that feedback to the commission, make a recommendation on the two. Then we can change it on the website and in all the correspondence, and we can start advertising for the program for this year.
I thought that's.
That sounds good. We gotta, because I have people asking about the trees and so on, and I tell them the story we're going through.
What-
So the quicker we move, the better off we are.
So what
There-
happens if we don't hear back from anybody, say, 3 weeks from now?
Hopefully.
I spoke with her late last week, and I was hoping I'd hear back, so I'm expecting it'll be soon. I think one of the critical steps for the commission to determine is what two maple trees to remove from the existing list.
Well, there's only two.
There's only two, so we're taking both those off then. Okay, very good.
Okay. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion that's on the floor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item, update on our grant from the Michigan DNR, and see Tyler and Josh are both here, so how goes it?
So I don't have a ton to update you on. I didn't hear back from anyone on any further revisions of the draft that was shared at the last meeting. So that has been submitted to Great Lakes Urban Forestry to get those incorporated. The other thing is we had 31 trees that were flagged for a level 2 risk assessment in the city. They're planning to send a 2-man crew late June, early July to finish those assessments. They did present an opportunity to me, since we had more money in the budget from not having as many trees to be inventoried as we originally predicted, of the potential of sending someone that is certified to climb trees and do a level 3 assessment on any of those trees if they felt like it was warranted. That would have been an additional $640 per tree, on top of the $291 that we're paying for the level 2 assessments. So essentially with what we have available in the budget for this contract, it would have been a maximum of 4 trees. So I told Leslie that we're gonna forego any level 3 assessments. We don't really feel that it's necessary, that you can get everything you need from a level 2. And ultimately, if the level 2 says that, there's a problem with the tree, I'm sure you'd rather take those trees out rather than deal with trying to preserve something that's got internal decay or something like that. So that's really all I have as far as updates. We do have a date locked in for training that we're gonna do with DPW staff, and Tree Commission are welcome to attend. I think we're gonna try to do one big thing, that's November 2nd.
November?
Yep, so that will be hopefully like a full day training. If you guys can attend, we'll do maybe an indoor portion going through how to do a risk assessment on a tree. And we'll also talk about proper pruning techniques, and then we'll take that to the field and maybe look at some of the trees, walk through an assessment and walk through how that tree should be pruned. And planting, yeah. Planting will be another component, proper planting.
Tyler, Steve Kostecki is brand new to the group, so I just want to explain, Tyler is also from the Conservation District. And he is the administrator of the grant, the $224,000 grant that we got from the Michigan DNR. Okay. And they're administering this, they're taking care of contracting, the support, like you just heard here. Could you just fill me in on assessment, level 2 assessment, risk assessment? This is a tree that's been identified during the inventory.
Yep, so the initial inventory was what we call level 1 tree risk assessment. And that is kind of like a walk by view, you're assessing multiple trees kind of at the same time within one view shed kind of. It's a very quick assessment. And if there was anything that flagged during that assessment that they wanted to look at further, that elevates to a level 2, which is, we're looking at the tree in more detail. There's a full risk assessment sheet that they're going through, and it's something that we would go through with you guys on the training day as well. So just to look at the tree a little more closely to make a better recommendation on what should happen with that tree. And so that is what they'll be returning to do. And that, like I said, that is what we're paying them $291 per tree for that assessment. And there were 31 trees that were flagged in the original inventory.
And during the initial inventory, there were some trees that were just, you identified, we need to get these taken care of right now.
Yeah.
The city took care of those.
Yeah, if it's clear from the level 1 inventory that the tree is dead or needs to come down, there's no point in doing the level 2. The level 2 assessment really is to look at a tree that is actively growing that might have potential issues and take a closer look at those.
So level 1's bad. Okay, it's going. Level 1's trees in bad shape.
The levels are the amount of time spent on the inventory or on the assessment. So level 1 is just a very quick assessment of the tree. The level 2 is a little more detailed.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So technically, a level 2 means you're walking 360 degrees around each tree and analyzing the site conditions and things that you can see from the ground around each tree. A level 1 is like you're walking by the tree.
Okay.
So big volume with level 1s, and level 2 means you're just, and level 2 has a specific form that we're gonna cover in November 2nd. And you'll see why it's $200 per tree, because there's a lot of factors that go into the matrix. And level 3, like Tyler referred to, means now you're doing things like using fancy equipment to bounce sound through the tree, or get a tree climber up there to look at intricate little things in the ground. So all the levels are different levels of detail that you're looking at the tree with.
Okay, great, thank you.
The other thing that they've done for us with the inventory, they've given us at least I hesitate to, it's not an assessment, but they've been like a condition of the tree,
Yeah.
right? It's either, they're saying, they need to prune it, or they need to do something, or it should be, considered for removal, at
And-
a later date.
Yep, so just so you're aware, what the assessments are a risk assessment. So the potential for damages to be caused or people to be injured by the tree. So that's what kind of goes into those categories that they had put in for their prune recommendations or removal recommendations, is the level of hazard that there is there.
A lot of the trim requests and removal requests we're getting right now have to do with, residents saying, I'm concerned about this branch hanging over my garage. I'm concerned about this. So this kind of training that you're gonna have on November 2nd is gonna be very helpful to us.
Yeah.
To be able to have more confidence when we talk to these people about.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah, that's the idea, and that's what the risk assessment takes into account. So very few times, if you have a tree in the middle of a park, there's no structures around it, maybe it's decaying, you're not going to see as high of a level of risk there because people can move out of the way. Where you are going to see a higher level of risk is when there's potentially a structure that is within the area of that tree falling. So anytime that there's property damage or something like that, that could be a risk of that tree, that kind of elevates it. And it's all worked into that sheet that we'll go through with you guys. So you'll be more equipped to better assess trees when you get those calls. Yeah.
Sure.
This, you said, has been turned in now for,
Yep, so it'll go in and then it'll come back to us if we have any final revisions that we want incorporated. So there'll be one more opportunity.
okay, there's a question that you had on here, on the last one you flagged there. It has to do with where they dictated, or they pointed out that you had 71 trees of substantial risk, but they only did 31 trees of that group.
Yeah, that was,
Further risk assessment.
and I don't know the answer to that. That was
Okay.
because, and that's why I included it. So they had documented 71 with critical risk and stated in the plan that all of those should have a level 2
Right.
assessment be
But they only
completed.
did 31.
But they only recommended 31 to us, so I'm not sure if that was a typo or, I haven't looked at the actual Excel data to see if there was actually 71 critical risk. So just clarification that I requested in that.
Now, one more thing that I was thinking about going through this report and so on, I would, perhaps we can put a summary page in there where it shows and lays out all the acronyms that are being used. You know, there's probably at least a dozen different acronyms going through there, and you have to flip back and forth to say, what the hell does that mean now? Oh, that meant, if we have one page where it does this kind of stuff and shows the acronyms and lists them off,
Okay.
don't you think that'd be a pretty good thought?
Yeah, I can reach out to them about adding that as a appendix.
Going through it,
Okay.
okay?
Where do we stand as far as integrating the Excel data onto the GPS or GIS system, the city's GIS system? Have we made any progress there?
So I've been working with the city's GIS coordinator, who is working with our GIS consultant, and they are getting those credentials together so that can occur.
Okay, because I'm just looking forward to the ability of the people on here, when we get a trim or removal request, to be able to go online and say, what do the arborists say about this tree? What is the condition of this tree? And then we can share that with the resident who's making the request. Because, tell you what, I got my ass handed to me by one person out here on Fifth Avenue. You know, I just said, that tree does not need to come down. It's not gonna be a problem. It's not gonna, and boy, I'll tell you what, I wish I could have recorded that.
But John, you're pretty tough.
Yeah, believe me, I was surprised that, it was a woman.
Yeah.
Using words that, hell, I served 4 years on active duty in the U.S. Army. I didn't hear.
So one thing I think is important to point out too, once the database is live and you guys have access to it, we'll do a training on how to view, edit, make changes within the database. But an important distinction with like the risk assessments and, you know, what they're calling a safe tree in the plan, there's a very short window on that being accurate because things change daily every year. We have conditions that might cause a limb to snap, and that changes the entire situation. So it's something that will be important. It'll be a resource for you guys to reference when you're in the field, but if you get a tree complaint, you probably are going to want to go through your own assessment once you have a little more information on how to do that, because over time this database will need to be updated, and that responsibility will fall on the tree commission to make those changes as they see fit. So
Quite frankly, the database is outdated right now,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Two things about tree risk. One, an official level 2 tree risk, you're not to speculate beyond 5 years. That's the arboriculture standard. Two, you guys run into contentious situations, I really suggest you don't make a decision about whether the tree is safe or not without bringing in a track certified person, because that can be a problem when somebody says, I don't believe you, what makes you certified to say that? You might as well utilize somebody that, I said the same thing to the city of Ludington, because they wanted their volunteers to get trained in level 2 track and go out and do tree risk assessments, and I discouraged them from doing so. So if you run into somebody that's really pushing back, call us, call somebody, but I don't suggest you make an executive decision like that on a contentious tree if you don't carry the credential. Because somebody could technically go to court over something like that and say, well, are you a certified arborist? Are you track certified? If you're not, it could be a problem. So just know that, but yeah, like to build on what Tyler said, I've dealt with other city forest management plans in my career where the risk assessment values you saw on our management 5 years with those. So that, yes, can be a financial problem too, because you need to get them reassessed every so often, but you're not supposed to speculate beyond 5 years with tree risk. For good reason, because things can change a lot
Yeah.
in 5 years.
Jerry?
I got one more question over here. There's a lot of trees in the city here that run along the embankment along Second Street and like Spruce Street Hill. Were any of those trees included in any of this study here? I suspect not. Would you know what I'm talking about?
You mean like the alleyways behind?
They're easements.
Right.
They're not even alleyways.
You know,
Well,
they're not, yeah,
Platted but not improved streets and alleys.
right. So like along Second Street,
My assumption is no.
right?
Um,
Because if that was the case, because I visited some lady that had a deal the other day, and just looking at them, or whether it was sugar maple or whatever kind of maple, but there's many of the trees along that embankment are maples. So if that was included in the study, that's gonna scale.
I would say it probably was dictated based on the road layer that you provided to Great Lakes. So if it showed up in all roads, I assume that they walked that assuming that that was part of the city property. I'd have to look at the map in more detail and see if I can find a situation where there was an inventory present. Just off my recollection, looking at the map, I feel like it was the main streets that I saw points, but I could look back into that and see if I can find a situation where maybe they did venture down those.
Because all the places I'm referring to in my mind and so on, I can see the tree count can easily increase by 500 to 600, just from all these trees along the slope and so on. All those areas.
That does bring up a great point though, Jerry. Jeff, I handled one tree trim request over the past month that was an easement, between Broad and oh God, what's another B? It's up in our area.
Bryant.
Broad and Bryant.
Birch,
Yeah.
Browning.
Oh, no, the easement around between, which doesn't look like there was ever gonna be a road there or anything. What, and there's a massive, beautiful willow back there. And the residents are going, what should I do with it? Should we trim it? Should I trim it? Should you trim it? And honestly, I don't think it needed to be trimmed, but I'm concerned about it.
So that seems to come up every year. There's a lot of platted alleys and right-of-ways that, like the one that Jerry's referring to between Spruce and Elm. There's a platted street right-of-way for Second Street. It's not improved. Somebody uses it by license as an access. Every year, there's a tree or limbs that come down in there, every single year. And when that happens, we go in there and clean it up. Between, say, Birch and Cherry Street, on all of those streets that start with a B, there's platted alleys between all those lots, and the homeowners planted trees on that lot line almost the entire way. So this spring, we probably had, I think, 4 pretty large pine trees that came down. The residents turned to us and said, well, it's in your alley. They don't want us in the alley until they need us, But we went in there, we took those trees out and rented a stump grinder so we could get in there and finish it and come back out. I guess my opinion is when there's a problem, that's public right of way and we'll certainly address it. But if there's a request for a healthy tree to be removed, I think you could use some discretion on that because if they volunteered to take that tree or to deal with it, that certainly removes a lot of burden. And if you think about that unplatted alley for a block long, sometimes we can't get to it. There's other trees in the way, we've got to go through people's yards, and that could be quite challenging.
Yeah, especially depending on the time of the year. you can't get
Yeah.
certain equipment, roots are gonna sink in super deep.
Right.
So I assume that those platted roads don't have any name, or they weren't part of the GIS layer that was sent to all roads?
Well, they're not improved, so there's not an actual street, but they're platted, which makes them public right-of-way.
Just was thinking if you guys as the tree commission, as you got calls and wanted to inventory or take that on, you know, adding those trees to the database, I don't know how, following their numbering system, it's all based on the direction of the main road and street address. And it might get a little confusing when you're talking about a tree behind someone's house in unimproved road.
Well, I think, personally, I think that inventory is less important than the ones that are in the boulevards and on the,
I was gonna say that, let's leave well enough alone right here, there's enough to handle right here.
Yeah.
Whereas we're trying to bring the rest of that in there, I was just bringing it up to make it aware of what's going on, there's other stuff out there too. And I seriously doubt that it was included in this, which is fine, and I can understand why.
yeah, and from a practical matter, they're not surveyed, so you're walking through a forest that could be city right-of-way, it could be a backyard. Whenever we get those requests, we have to look into our GIS, and I put the actual platted subdivisions within the GIS, so we often have to do some measurements and try to figure out where we're at as well.
Well, I had one the other day, a couple days ago, that was the case there. And based on what I can see from somebody's outhouse and so on, it looked like the tree was actually on the city property. But it was pretty close, you know, but it was posing a problem down the road here. The tree was healthy, but down the road with some high winds and so on, it's going to, you know, tip over onto the person's house.
Yeah, just an example, if you go to the west end of Fifth Avenue and you get up to the top of the hill before you get to the channel into Harbor Village, that vacant property between Fifth Avenue and the Manistee River is a platted subdivision. There are platted streets all over in there. Nothing's ever been built, but we have streets in there. And we've got a water main, a 12-inch water main that crosses underneath the river from Cherry Road. But it doesn't just go straight to Fifth Avenue. It goes down this street and then turns on that street and turns on this street. Now, there's not a lot of forestry in there, but that's just an example of platted unimproved.
One other question that comes up with, like the situation I handled last month, where the person wanted the tree removed. It was very healthy, and, you know, they were pointing at it, and if that limb falls on my garage, the city's gonna pay for it. Has the city had situations in the past 10 years or during your time in office, Jeff, where we've had to pay for a city tree damaging a resident's property?
First of all, I'm not an attorney,
No.
but my understanding is, once that limb crosses the property line, then the property owner has rights to that limb.
Yeah, under Michigan law.
What does that mean?
So if the tree is growing between the street and the sidewalk, and say the back side of the sidewalk is within a foot of the property line,
Yep.
okay? Once that tree grows over that sidewalk and crosses onto private property, they have every right to trim and maintain that branch. So if they're concerned about a branch over their garage or house, they have every I believe they have every legal right to address that.
Okay.
We will do it because it stems from a city tree and it's kind of a service that we provide, but we only do that, number one, with the blessing of the tree commission, or if we see that there's an imminent danger.
Well, I certainly did not see an imminent danger. Okay, but I'm not a certified arborist,
Right.
as Josh said.
So,
I just want to make sure we're protected here.
yes.
You know, people
So-
who are sitting here in this commission, I want them to be comfortable and
So to set, I mean, what I said kind of sets a little bit of understanding. To answer your question, the city is insured by the Michigan Municipal League. And the Michigan Municipal League is here, it acts differently than my personal insurance, your personal insurance. It seems like when I've got a claim at my home, the insurance company's looking for a way not to help me, right? They look for exclusions and they try to pay out as little as possible. We have a different experience with the Michigan Municipal League insurance because it's a pool that all the communities are paying in to cover each other, right? And so our insurance is extremely good to work with, but anytime there's any sort of a claim by a citizen, we have them, encourage them to submit it to MML, and MML will go through that. And they will pay out claims when they deem that's necessary. I'm not sure that I can recall any that they've paid out from a city tree or right-of-way tree that's fallen over or caused damage. If it falls on a house, usually, or on a car, usually your car insurance is going to cover that first. If it falls on a house, usually your homeowners is going to cover that first. The only time that that we have concern with the MML is if we're negligent. If there's something that is obvious that the tree is broke and it's leaning and it's hanging and somebody says it looks dangerous but I don't want to take it down, that could be negligence, and then the city could be liable for that.
So in other words, the assessment or not, the piece of paper that I turned back into Katie is on file.
Yes.
And I said, I don't feel that this is an immediate safety hazard or property hazard.
Right.
So that should be documentation that we're not being negligent.
Yeah, and I think we have to be mindful of the words that we use, right?
Yep.
And just like Josh was explaining, we have experts that have done a risk assessment, but that risk assessment is good the day that they did it. Tomorrow, there could be a windstorm that compromises that tree in a different way, or there could be some infestation from a pest, and a year later, it changes that. So your assessment is at the time you do that.
So the other important difference there though is a level 2 tree risk assessment specifically says in there, this does not account for abnormal weather events or things that can go wrong. So they are good for years. That's still different than somebody who's not certified saying the tree is safe.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then if something does happen and you've got that documented, that can be as negligence.
So can you say, like, to me, it doesn't look dangerous, but I would like an expert to weigh in and,
Yes, be careful with your wording is what I'm saying. The way you take the conversation is when you make declarations about tree safety, if you don't carry a certification, that can be interpreted as negligence if something does go wrong.
but I mean, would we be able to have somebody an expert take a second look at it?
Yeah, I do that all the time in the city. There's ones of trees I've looked at that have never even been on your guys' radar.
Okay.
People call me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's precisely the reason why this commission, 4 or 5 years ago, decided to seek out the consultation of a certified arborist. And Josh has kind of stepped in when we have those.
Josh has done a wonderful job.
Yeah.
Okay, but Josh is busy, he does handle, 4 counties?
Well, what I'm saying is
Yeah.
just only those contentious situations, right?
Right.
I can't be doing that 5 days a week when I'm doing trap stuff, because it can easily turn into that. But once in a while, you're gonna get those trees where you're just like, this person is really passionate about this tree, just call me up. I'm not saying I can get to it tomorrow, but I can definitely get to it. I've done that for other trees in the area, kind of calm people down
My-
before they even got on Jeff's radar.
My experience, and you guys certainly do this many more times, but what it seems to me is when there's a dangerous limb or a tree that is a hazard, that's pretty obvious to everybody, right? It's normally when somebody wants a tree gone for a different reason, and then they use safety as a claim to that to kind of bolster their case. I think that's where you get those differences of opinion.
Okay?
They want the city to cut their tree down, basically.
And they may want to put a sidewalk in or widen their driveway or something, but there's usually some other motivation there. Could be just financial or,
The trickier ones to understand is recognizing, like, when you're hitting that inflection point, for example, overextended branches are gonna be an issue in the next couple of years. There's certain things in that matrix that you should really have somebody else looking at closer.
Josh, just a minute ago, did you say that if we went and looked at a tree and we said that it was healthy, and then we declined their trim or remove request, and then that tree were to come down, that would be, could be considered negligent?
Could be is the key phrase. It depends on how much in the weeds you go with how you're wording things like that. I'm just saying, be careful. You don't carry that credential. Somebody that does their homework on that would be like, this person told me that there's absolutely nothing to worry about.
Right, and then it would be on that form as a
I'm
denied.
talking more about like what Jeff alluded to, which were those trees that are like
Okay.
in the city.
Gotcha.
And somebody went out there and said, oh, you got absolutely nothing to worry about. That tree's fine for the next however many years. Don't even worry about it. Somebody could make a case there. And why do that when you can just bring somebody up, just knock it out with a level 2 track?
Years ago, we had a gentleman that was concerned about a tree, and the sidewalk was replaced next to the tree. And, you know, a commissioner came out and looked at it. I went out and looked at it. Tree looked healthy. It was, you know, many months after the construction occurred. And at the time, everybody thought, it looks healthy. There doesn't seem to be a reason to remove it. And the next big windstorm, it fell over on, I think it was on their camper or something. But we didn't incur negligence from that, but there was insurance claims, and that's why we have insurance.
Yeah. All right, well, a lot of questions. Thank you, both of you. The third item on our agenda is the submittal of the final review. You just said it's in, it's being, it's going to come back to us for final review, probably, hopefully within next month. And, so that's great. Okay. And then the last item on here is resident support for the trees planted on 8th Street. David, have you had a chance to get those door hangers out?
We have not got them out. Just got a call, I think it was the day before yesterday, from Katie, was that about right? Day before yesterday, maybe 2 days ago, that they were ready to be picked up. I was in Onekama on my way to Arcadia. She sent an email out to Vidar. I guess Jerry ended up picking them up.
I gave him the Vidar, I took him his mailbox.
Vidar has them, so we need to put them out. But they literally just got back to us.
Vidar, did you get him?
No.
Mailbox,
What?
in your garage mailbox,
The door hangers?
the door hangers,
Well,
unless you changed homes or something like that.
no, I don't check that every day. I have a big box on the floor.
Okay.
But I dropped in there and I heard go clunk, clunk, clunk. And I also brought your trash can up, so you know that moved, so that was me.
Okay?
And I took it off the street.
Check it when I come home.
Okay.
All right, so after this meeting, I'll go and get those, and then get that taken
We
care of.
really, we need to get them out, because
Yep.
I'm on 8th Street a couple times a week, and they're pretty dry right now, and the weather is not conducive right now to.
They just
these
got done being printed a couple days ago.
saplings, yeah. We need to get those trees watered. All right. That being the end of our agenda, our business items, let's just start down. Peter, do you have anything that you'd like to say or comments?
No, just one thing, Jeff, you mentioned that Spicer is working on us getting access to the database of the trees. I have, from other cases, some various experience with IT people when they say it's going to happen soon. What does that mean?
Well, I've been trying for many months to get them access, but I just exchanged emails with the finance director, who is our GIS coordinator, and he passed it on to our GIS consultant from Spicer. He hadn't replied back, so today I requested a reply on that. I think we'll get it wrapped up here quick.
Okay, thank you.
Sarah?
Nope, nothing.
Nothing? Nick? All right, Steve, anything you'd like to say?
Happy to join you guys and hope I can help get to know everybody. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, we're happy that you're here. It helps us have a quorum. All right. How about you, Jerry?
Nothing. I'm all set.
David?
Nope, I apologize for being late. Had a tree not cooperating with me, but, I did have one question regarding the database. I kind of like that idea as if we come across a tree that's on a platted area, to add it. Would that be something we can potentially do? We mentioned that it was possible. Is that something we want to do?
I think, just before you walked in, Jerry made a comment that I think a lot of us agree with. We just probably should leave this alone. We've got enough to work with in the.
Well, I heard him say that, but I mean, like,
Trees that we have already on the inventory.
I mean, it just say, the way I'm seeing it is if we know it's a city tree and we found out it is, I think adding it and knowing so that someone else doesn't go back out there, like, is this a city tree?
Well, I think, yeah, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. One of the things we look at is if we're able to use like your phone to get as precise a location as
GPS
possible.
coordinates, sure.
You know, but that's something that has to go through. I don't know, are we ever gonna,
No, but-
is your intention ever for us on this commission to have full access and take trees out and add trees? I don't know if I want that.
We did that.
Yeah, no, I know when we initially started this whole process, I
Right.
understand, I got it. But I'm just wondering, is that what the future, is that the best thing for us to be considered in the future?
So our GIS system, it began with a grant to inventory our sewer systems. And then we have leveraged it into a tremendous amount of data. And so I guess my opinion is, I use it every single day at my job, but I don't get to edit anything. And I don't want to edit anything. I mean, I pull data out of that 10 times a day, but I don't edit it. So I think that it should be a resource that the commission should be able to see and read the data or the data fields. But we had we had it set up so that with your phone, you could log in. When we first started doing our own inventory, I think that would probably be the extent, is to that level, is what my vision
We
would
could
be.
add, is what you're saying, if we're using the phone.
Yeah, because we've been trying to save all the data since the inventory was done. We've had trees blow down, we've gone through a whole winter of removals. So when they get all that data entered, we're gonna have to then go back and re-edit all that and continue to keep it updated.
I'd rather DPW did the removals. Because you're physically doing the removals.
Right.
I would rather that, but as far as adding in, it sounds like this commission would like to have that capability.
Yeah, I mean, each year when we're just planting the trees on 8th Street, somebody needs to go shoot those in and add them in and fill out the data fields for them.
Can this database, like, I'm picturing it something like Google Earth, like with just a bunch of points on it. Could it be exported like onto like a Google Earth and then we could work with the data, but it would be a completely separate thing? And then, you know what I mean? So that we're not,
It actually, my experience with it, you can come right down to the tree itself.
So a
Like
couple.
Google Earth, in fact, that it's using that.
Couple different things. What we did is when we started the GIS system, we used the aerial imagery that the county has flown. And the city always used to pay to have a higher resolution than what was flown out in the counties. The base map that we use today is actually is HD filmed from a drone that we paid to have just go over the city and where the city has utilities in the townships. So it is extremely high resolution, and that's our backdrop of it. We've also imported all of our utility maps. We've imported all the, like I mentioned, all the plats. There's a tremendous amount of data, a tremendous amount of layers, and every month there's more and different that gets added in. So number one, in order to keep that, you've got to keep that database together as one, but you can carve out pieces of it to use, but then you can't manipulate it. It's kind of, just a viewer type thing. But yeah, this is an evolving technology for us too, because we were doing stuff inside, now we've got people from the outside that want to get in, and so it's taking longer than I thought this would be very easy. Hey, I need access for this, but there's licensing and there's access controls, and so we're trying to get kind of that set up internally, so that we can let an outside person come in and just edit this field, not the other 1,000, because we want to be able to control and protect that resource as well.
Yeah, that makes sense. And licensing can get expensive. It's by the user usually. I don't think we would need individual access for viewing, just maybe as a whole commission.
Right.
But, okay, cool. Thank you.
So, a little patience, because it's evolving and we're trying to figure out as we're adding more complexity to it.
I will add too, once Great Lakes has everything incorporated in the database, part of our contract with them is a training on how to utilize the data, view it, make edits. Obviously, something that you might want tree commission to have the ability to do is add a new point with a tree, enter the information for that tree, and then also have mark things as removed, where you probably won't want to be editing things are when you get into those attributes of the formal risk assessments and what was categorized high risk, medium risk. The tree commission should not be editing that stuff at all. No one should be, but I think you probably could set something up where the tree commission just adds new trees, and then DPW has the ability to delete points out of the database.
Or at least we could just submit a request to whoever's in that database the most, and then it's not getting missed.
Yeah, the way that we do that, every day our water department is digging up and finding stuff, and that's not an 8-inch, it's a 10-inch, So there's a way that you can put work orders in there. So you can drop a pin for a new tree, put it as a work order, and there was a 1.5-inch caliper maple tree of this species, and then that work order, then, somebody within the public works can then go through those work orders and get those added. We actually contract with Spicer for water, sewer, streets, like there's 4 or 5 maintenance contracts that we have just to modify that data and keep it up to date. And we may have to do that for the tree commission.
Wonderful, okay. Nothing else, David? You're
Nothing
good?
else, no.
Thank you all. I just want to say one more thing. Our next meeting will be the second Monday of July. Okay, and so everybody knows that at 5 o'clock right here. And just to make sure you all understand that November 2nd date for the full day of risk assessment training and pruning training, that is outside of our meeting, regular meeting schedule. Our last meeting of 2026 will be in the second Monday of October. So it would be nice if we could attend that November 2nd, but as a official commission meeting, it will not be on the agenda. Okay?
And
So
where would that be at? Here?
We'll follow.
August.
we'll have time to they'll let us know. So, okay, if there's nothing else, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all very much, and we'll see you next month.